After an underwhelming free demo, Marathon is officially out and is asking for $40 of your hard-earned money. There are a lot of opinions surrounding this game, and while some people seem to like the gameplay and the art style, many others are simply calling it Concord 3.0. And considering how Highguard is shutting down on 12th of March, which I'll talk more about in just a bit, where does Marathon actually stand in this extremely competitive and unforgiving landscape? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. We'll also talk about another game that does almost everything much better than Marathon, and I'm not talking about Arc Raiders. Because in my opinion, from a gameplay perspective, there is no real comparison between Marathon and Arc Raiders because they both are very different games. The thing is, I've never been a fan of live service games in general. The one game that I did enjoy was Apex Legends back in the COVID era, but I've never dipped my toes into the extraction shooter genre. Arc Raiders looks interesting and has been on my radar for a while now, but I haven't bought it just yet for one simple reason. I'm broke as and also because I'm trying to save some money for Crimson Desert. Man, that game is just something else, but anyways. I really appreciate that Bungie was kind enough to drop a free demo of Marathon for the players to try out, and I did try it out. I played the game for over 2 hours, and as someone who has never played an extraction shooter before, this game was a freaking nightmare. After sitting through a cutscene seemingly made for people with brain rot, completing the tutorial without understanding a single thing, and painfully exploring the settings, I entered the first match and there was absolutely no HUD on screen. Not even a single thing. At first I thought it might be a bug, but after the match ended, I painfully explored the settings again, only to realize that I somehow managed to accidentally turn it off. The menus and the overall UI is probably the ugliest I've ever seen in any game, and is borderline frustrating to navigate through. Now at this point I pretty much didn't want to play the game anymore, but I kept going and played around 4 more matches. It was only by the last match that the game kinda started making sense, but most of the time I had no idea what I was doing and I still had a ton of questions. Why are you slowly walking around searching for loot? Why are these robots trying to kill you while protecting these abandoned facilities? What are these shells here for exactly, other than being an excuse for ugly ass character designs? And what even is this place? I guess it was some kind of space station on Mars, but I'm still not sure. The thing is, after watching some trailers and gameplay footage for Arc Raiders, you pretty much understand right away what's going on and why do you need to scavenge for loot. Marathon doesn't give you any clear incentive for that. The looting shooting mechanics are just there for the sake of being there. Now yes, it certainly has its strengths, like for example the visuals. Anywhere outside the facilities looks cool, and especially the rain effects look gorgeous, but that's about it. The office buildings, the main point of interest where you'd spend most of your time in, look like a Lego movie directed by Zack Snyder. It honestly blew my mind how the devs used so many bright, shocking neon colors while still managing to make the world look extremely bland, yet mucky at the same time. It's a sensory overload, nothing is clear on the map, and it's just horrible to look at. But anyways, let's talk about the gunplay. To me it was mostly fine, but I had only 5 minutes of actual fighting in over 2 hours of playtime. And this is where things start getting worse. There's a severe shortage of ammo in this game. If you're someone like me and you suck at FPS games, buckle up, because you're gonna eat through your bullets in the very first fight. Good luck with finding more. On top of that, this game has a pretty long time to kill and the enemies are more like bullet sponges, so deliberately making ammo scarce is a weird choice. On top of that, it doesn't make any sense that when you down an enemy, they don't have any bullets on them. For a looter shooter, this game has no loot and no shooting. At one point in the game, after just one gunfight, I literally spent 15 minutes looking for ammo or healing items and I couldn't find either. I spent the entirety of that match hiding and sneaking around with 1 HP after my teammates were killed off. By the end of that match, the extraction points were all used up except for the guarded one. Luckily, I was using the assassin shell, so I used invisibility to sneak past the robots and successfully got out of there. But anyways, the point is, half the time I was struggling to find useful items, the other half I was struggling to read if the items I did find were actually useful or not. And most of the time, the stuff I did pick up was absolute trash. And that includes the weapons as well. In one match, I was carrying a single-shot rifle and I didn't even know that. I tried to find where the game indicates the firing mode, but either I'm blind or it's just not there. The HUD does a bad job at showing what type of gun you have, what firing mode is it in, how many bullets do you have. It's all just a nightmare. To make matters worse, the guns themselves are bland and they lack all personality. I mean, I remember in Apex, I instinctively knew what an R301 or a flatline was, even though I never played a Titanfall game before. The attachments made sense as well. It took me like 2 matches to get a hang of it all, and the game kept me hooked. In Marathon, I didn't even know what the hell I was playing with. To me, every gun looked and felt the same. The designs were horrendous. I mean, is this supposed to be a pistol? Because it doesn't even look like a damn gun. Then there are different attachments for weapons as well, but there is no way of knowing what attachment goes with what gun. I just picked some up and pressed X hoping they would attach themselves, but what do they do exactly? Who knows? And not to mention, switching your weapon in the loot menu is a whole different pain in the ass. Speaking of pain, I never really understood the healing items or how to upgrade your shields, but hey, I just appreciate the fact that the game has an auto healing system and pressing down on the D-pad uses the most suitable item. Now let's talk about the PvPvE elements, which in my opinion are probably the only strength of Marathon. The enemy AI is aggressive. Those Robocops roaming around the map pose a genuine threat and can knock you down pretty quickly. And then they use these umbilical cords of doom to suck the remaining life out of you. In some areas there were these automatic mounted guns or whatever they're called that can absolutely rip you to shreds. The most annoying thing though was this spider spawning nightmare. And the worst part is that shooting it doesn't even destroy it. And as long as you're close to it, the spiders just keep on exploding in your face, but that's pretty much about it. So you're basically doing three things in this game: slowly walking around searching for loot, occasionally fighting enemy robots, and fighting the UI of the game. The thing is, playing Marathon was a dull, boring, and depressing experience. I wanted to keep playing to get a hang of the extraction and looting mechanics, but it's mainly the UI that made it unbearable for me. And that's why I decided to try out another extraction shooter, Delta Force. I had played the Warzone mode on mobile before, but I never tried it on the PS5 for obvious reasons. But anyways, I jumped into the extraction mode for the very first time, and right off the bat, the game just clicked. The gunplay is solid, the different operators are far more interesting than the literal shells you get in Marathon, the UI is intuitive, and the loot actually makes sense. The game clearly communicates the points of interest, high risk, high reward areas, and different side objectives on the map. Now, I'm not saying that this is the best thing ever. The game definitely has its flaws. One of the biggest weaknesses of the game are the PvE elements. The enemy AI sucks absolute ass and they just run around the map waiting to get shot at, and that's about it. The game also has some mechanics that are overly complicated in my opinion. Like for example, there are 6 different healing items for different types of injuries. Then there are some really in-depth weapon customization options with hundreds of attachments to choose from. And all this can be really overwhelming for new players. You can even calibrate and fine-tune your weapons to best suit your playstyle. Like you can tweak your weapon to have less recoil, but you would need to compromise on things like ADS and movement speeds while shooting. It can be daunting at first, but it just blew my mind how much control you have over your weapon and how in-depth and well-balanced all these systems actually are. The thing is, both of these games, Marathon and Delta Force, are very similar. Both are first-person extraction hero shooters. The only key difference is that Marathon has some sci-fi elements and looks more like depressed Roblox. Meanwhile, Delta Force offers more of a grounded and tactical experience. And when you consider that it's a free-to-play 2-in-1 package giving you both the extraction mode as well as a massive 64-player warfare mode, Marathon certainly looks like a very bad deal. After playing them back to back, even if Marathon were free, I'd still play Delta Force because overall it's a much better game and it's simply just more fun to play. And that's exactly why Delta Force has held on to most of its player base for well over a year now, while a giant like Battlefield 6 lost 90% of its team players in just 4 months. This is the same trend we've seen with many other live service games, and considering how the player retention for Marathon Server Slam looked like, paired with the fact that the game launched with a peak of 88,000 players, if I were Sony, I would be very nervous, because to be specific, this trend is very similar to that of Highguard, a game that couldn't even survive 2 months after launch. Highguard didn't— oh sorry, wrong article. Highguard is permanently shutting down barely a month after its debut. This game lived for a total of 45 days, which is like 4 days in Concordian time. Now I suspect that Marathon might limp along a bit longer because of the Bungie name and the fact that it has a small dedicated fan base, but judging from this graph of doom, I see it flatlining within 4 months unless there is some miracle. I mean, think about it. 143,000 players showed up for the free demo, and in just a couple of days, the numbers started plummeting. I expected the player counts to shoot up over the weekend, but the game only managed to pull around 64,000 players on Sunday, which means it lost over 55% of its audience in just 3 days. And once again, this is exactly what happened with Highguard. Following the news of Highguard being shut down, the studio head and the game director at Violet Entertainment shared some more interesting numbers on X. Around 2 million players showed up for Highguard, which is a number that most of the gaming companies would literally kill for. 92% of the people who loaded the game for the first time completed the training mission. This is actually a very healthy number, similar to what we saw at launch with Apex training completion, which means that around 1.8 million players gave Highguard a fair chance. But then they realized it was just another soulless corporate product that existed only to extract money from their wallets. And that's the only reason the game flopped so hard. And also because it sucked ass. So the question is, what really are the chances for Marathon? The live service landscape is becoming increasingly challenging and unforgiving by the hour. Sean Layden, the former PlayStation boss, explains it in the best way possible.
How many live service games can be successful at any one moment?
Yeah, well,
the answer obviously is not 20. Coming up with the next great live service game, you have to not only have a great game, you have to compel people to take their time away from where they are to come over and invest time in where you are. There's a switching cost. I don't think a lot of people play 4 or 5 live service games at the same time.
No.
You're like all into 1 or 2 and that's it. And so for you to come out with another one, you're trying to get people to come over here. Stop spending so much time doing that thing you love and come over here and try this thing you don't know. And that's a hard proposition.
That's the whole point. Right now, Arc Raiders is more like the undisputed king of the extraction shooter genre. People have already invested their time and money in that game, and they're definitely not gonna switch to Marathon unless it somehow reinvents the wheel. And right now, Marathon is mediocre at best. And let's be honest here, it only exists because Sony is obsessed with the idea of a live service cash generator that just keeps squeezing the players until the end of times. It's the same corporate greed, the same mindset that gave us games like Concord and Highguard, and the players love nothing more than to punish this mindset. As I mentioned before, Marathon has launched with a peak of 88,000 players. I can't really say what will happen over the weekend, but as of now, it seems to me that the people celebrating Highguard's inevitable demise will probably be celebrating Marathon dying too. But I'll leave you at that. Do let me know in the comments down below. Will you be buying Marathon, or are you hooked on some other game? Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you found the video valuable. Also use the hype feature so the video lands before more eyeballs and my little channel blows up. I would really appreciate the help. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.